he's just too much. He's too much. He's gonna knock Charles Oliveira out.
Volkan Ozdemir and Ian Gary sitting at plus 103 on the parlay. I think this is coming.
Oh my God, Bo Nickel.
UFC 324 just wrapped up, and I'm going to recap the entire fight card, starting with the first fight of the night, working my way up to the main event, where we just had Justin Gaethje become the first ever two-time interim champion. And man, what a goddamn fight. What a way to stamp the UFC on Paramount Plus debut. I'm super excited to recap these fights with you guys, so make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and let's get the full card recap underway, starting with the first fight of the night. We had Ty Miller taking on Adam Fugitt. The pick was Ty Miller, and absolutely right. I gotta say, I was impressed for him to get the buzzer beater finished. And if you guys don't know, there was a $25,000 bonus to every fighter that got a finish on the card, and Ty Miller ended up getting a performance of the night bonus as well. So Ty Miller, getting his fight contract money, $25,000, and then another $100,000 bonus for the finish that he got here. I know he's feeling really good about himself, and I know he can't wait to get back in there. Ty Miller looked really good. The boxing was on display, big power in his hands. You saw Adam Fugitt. He had moments of success. Like, he's not a terrible guy. I know a lot of people gave him flack and expected him to lose here, but Adam Fugitt, he's not bad, man. Like, he's a solid journeyman in the UFC. I don't expect him to get cut. He's been fighting the toughest guys ever. Like, his last fight was Islam Dulatov. He welcomed Michael Morales on short notice into the UFC. He fought, excuse me, I'm having a brain fart. The guy from Canada, Mike Malott. So he's been fighting literally, top 20, top 15, a guy who's on the verge of a title shot, and Michael Morales, in the welterweight division. So you can't give Adam Fugitt any, rough commentary here. I think he's a really solid guy. He's a little older, 37. He just got touched quite a little bit too much. And Ty Miller, hands were on full display. I expected him to get the finish, and the buzzer beater just made it that much more impactful. So shout out to Ty Miller getting the finish there. Definitely a guy that I will like to keep my eye on. And for a matchup next, I think I want to see him fight probably. I think they're going to slow walk him. The dude's still pretty young. I believe he's either 23. I think he's 23 or 26 years old, I want to say. If we could get to his profile, let's see. Oh, he's 25, yeah. So he's still young in his career. I think a fight with like Li Jingliang, the Leech, I think that's pretty solid. Both of those guys are solid boxers. We've seen Leech, finish before, and he's looking to come back into the UFC. He's been doing commentary for the China team. So I think a welcome back fight for Leech versus Ty Miller. I think that's a solid matchup. If it's not Leech, then maybe like a Chaos Williams fight. I think both of those are very doable matchups for Ty Miller. So definitely excited to see him back in the octagon pretty soon. And he got busted up in this fight. Adam Fugitt landed a big elbow over the top. So get some stitches. We'll probably see him by the summertime. So looking forward to seeing Ty Miller back in the octagon. Next fight, we had the real American dream, Josh HOKIT, finishing Denzel Freeman. This is exactly what I was talking about in the breakdown for you guys. Denzel Freeman looked very hesitant. He didn't get anything going. Look at the numbers here. Total strikes, 0 for 8. Josh HOKIT was in his face the entire fight, the entire, first round that it lasted. Another buzzer beater finish as well. Josh HOKIT walked away, gave him the middle fingers, and, Mark Smith saw enough. I expected Josh HOKIT to be in his face, be in his grill, be aggressive, and be the guy to push for a finish here, and that's exactly what he did. Freeman, too lazy, man. I didn't see any hunger in him, in that fight against Buljo. And then looking at his tape, he also didn't really look like he was a guy that was going to push for a finish. If it presented himself, he still was pretty hesitant. We saw the hesitancy last time. And HOKIT, we know what he's going to bring. He's trying to walk forward. He wants to get on that mic after the fight. And, he said a couple questionable things, I guess, called Brittany Griner a man. I don't agree with that. Whatever. Dude is trying to, be the Colby Covington, remake Colby Covington for the heavyweight division. He called out Waldo Cortez-Acosta. I don't think you want to do that. You saw what he did later this night. But He's trying to make himself presentable in the UFC heavyweight division. He's trying to be a big name. Maybe, work on the mic skills a little bit, but the guy can fight. I definitely won't give him any issues there. I think a solid matchup for him next. I do want to see him fight a striker, and a striker who definitely lacks some takedown defense. I think a Joe Nata Deniz fight is not far fetched. We just saw Deniz get finished by Pinto, and Pinto utilized the wrestling to finish him there. I think, HOKIT versus Deniz is definitely a solid matchup. I think I think they need to slow walk him. And Deniz at one point was a solid prospect, but we've seen him finish twice now. And then I know they're trying to set up Gable Stevenson into the UFC. Josh HOKIT versus Gable Stevenson definitely is a big matchup. We got trash talk on both sides. We got a former D1 wrestler, former pro football player in Josh HOKIT versus the Olympian and Gable Stevenson. I definitely think that matchup is realistic. Maybe not this year, maybe later, or maybe towards the end of this year or early next year. But I definitely do believe that's a matchup that they're trying to set up. Gable Stevenson has been working with John Jones, so he's getting prepared by one of the best, if not the best, in my opinion. So I think a HOKIT, continue to slow walk him. Maybe he fights a Deniz, gets into the rankings, and then maybe we get the Gable Stevenson fight. In the meantime, of the Deniz fight working out, or whoever he ends up fighting, then we end up getting, HOKIT defending his ranking versus Gable Stevenson. Who knows when, but I definitely think that's the route that they're trying to go. So big win for HOKIT here. Putting Freeman out like I expected. Freeman, I don't know. He could be looking at papers, honestly. Two very unimpressive performances back to back. This one, you get finished, you throw 8 strikes, and, we already saw what the Bulljo fight looked like. So I wouldn't be shocked to see him back on the regional scene. But good win for Josh HOKIT here. Next fight. I did reactions for a majority of these fights, right? And I did a reaction for Charles Johnson's fight against Alex Perez. And I'll be quite honest, I was absolutely stunned. I did not predict Alex Perez to win by knockout. If I thought, it's kind of funny because in the reaction I said, Alex Perez, he closes distance and he gets his boxing flowing, but he does not scare me with any type of power. As soon as I said that, he drops Charles Johnson, and 2 minutes later, he finishes him. I was completely thrown off, bro. I never in a million years did I predict Alex Perez to win via knockout over Charles Johnson. Hit him with a big right hand over the top. Charles Johnson kept his hands down for a majority of the exchanges while Perez was in the pocket with him. Cleaned his plate too many times, and the ref saw enough. Charles Johnson got caught one big time towards the end of the first round, and he fell like a tree, man. I was absolutely shocked. Utter disappointment. I was a big Charles Johnson fan. I still am, but this is a nasty, nasty loss, man. Charles Johnson was supposed to burst into the top 10 of the division. A Steve Erceg fight definitely could have been on the horizon, but losing to Alex Perez, not only losing to Alex Perez, but getting knocked out by Alex Perez, who hasn't won a fight since 2023. It's not going to look good, man. I think Charles Johnson's probably going to get put into like a ultimate gatekeeper type of position. I could definitely see him fighting another newcomer or a guy who has 1 or 2, UFC fights, like a Jose Ochoa fight. Definitely doesn't sound crazy. And yeah, man, it's rough for Charles Johnson right now. Sucks that, we didn't cash on the lock of the week, but it sucks even more to see Charles Johnson get put out that way. I think a more reasonable matchup or another matchup that I think can happen for Charles Johnson would be like a Hong Sung Park fight. We just saw Sung Park get finished twice back in a row, back to back as well. Maybe that's something that they do. Both of those guys I don't see competing for a ranking for a while now, especially both of them getting finished. But for Alex Perez, he put himself into a really good position. Maybe he can end up fighting a Steve Erceg. Maybe he could fight, a Brandon Royval coming off the loss against Manel Kopp. So Alex Perez, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it was like a calculated weight miss. He came in 2.5 pounds overweight, so maybe he thought he would get an advantage. And I'm not gonna say that the weight cut had anything to do with it. I just feel as though Alex Perez was able to inflict whatever he wanted to do in the ring tonight. So big win for him here. Absolutely devastated for Charles Johnson, and we start the year off on an L. It is what it is, though. Roll with the punches. Next fight, Nikita Krylov taking on Modestas Bukauskas. Now, when I did the breakdown for this fight, I knew there was a situation where Krylov would get too chaotic for Bukauskas, and Bukauskas is very technical. He likes to stick to the textbook, I want to say. Initially on the breakdown, it was a note that I wrote down. I said Krylov could maybe push this to go all 3 rounds, right? I scratched it. I said Bukauskas via TKO. Thought he would get him out of there. Krylov coming off of 2 back-to-back knockouts. And Bukauskas looked terrible. I got to say, I was a fan of him. This one just wiped the slate clean. I am not a fan of Modestas Bukauskas anymore. Getting finished by Nikita Krylov in 2026, I was about to say 25, is absolutely disgusting. I can't even... What was the game plan, man? Krylov was able to get his wrestling going, controlled the center of the octagon for majority of the fight. He looked very bouncy on his feet, got combinations flowing, got the knockdown, got the stoppage. This is bad for Bukauskas, man. This is definitely going to hurt his stock. You know, he was riding what, a 4-fight win streak, I want to say. Had 2 finishes in there as well. For him to get starched by Krylov at the another buzzer beater again at the end of the 3rd round, it's a nasty look, man. Bukauskas was one of those guys who I figured would run into trouble once he got into, top 10, top 8, somewhere around there. But for it to be Nikita Krylov coming off of 2 back-to-back knockout losses, yeah, that sucks. I don't see him competing into the top 15. I'm not going to say ever, but it's not likely that it's going to happen. You know what I'm saying? If you're getting starched by Krylov and we're looking at the 205 guys that are starting to come in, yeah, I don't think it's gonna play well for him. Like a Erwan Satibadiev fight could definitely be on the horizon. I know he just pulled out of his fight. I forgot who he was fighting, but I know he just pulled out because of an injury. So maybe their timelines work out. But yeah, I'm not really scratching to find a Modestas Bukauskas matchup, especially after he gets starched. Krylov did call out Jan Blachowicz. I feel as though that's a reasonable fight for him. If not, he could get maybe a Oezdemir rematch. I know he beat Oezdemir, but Oezdemir is higher than him in the rankings. Maybe they set that up, but I wouldn't be upset with a Jan Blachowicz fight. Blachowicz coming off of another loss against... Well, it wasn't a loss, excuse me. It was the tie against Bogdan Guskov. If they don't rebook that rematch, then maybe, a Krylov Blachowicz fight makes sense. But I wouldn't be too upset with it. I think Blachowicz is probably on his last days anyway, so it doesn't really affect how I feel about the fight. But good win for Nikita Krylov. Definitely was not expecting that. Next fight. I don't think anybody was expecting this fight to go all 3 rounds. Ateba Gautier taking on Andre Pulyaev. Pulyaev is a very slick striker, man. He was ripping those body kicks. He was staying on the jab. Even though he got caught, 2-3 times, got dropped by some big shots from Ateba Gautier. He showed us some holes in Ateba Gautier's fight style. And I have to tell you, it concerns me moving forward, but I do think he still has enough power to knock anybody in the middleweight division out. They did mention that Ateba didn't go to the weigh-in show interview because he was having a tough weight cut. So maybe that, I feel as though that definitely played a factor into this fight. His conditioning definitely looked good, but I don't know. It was more of an IQ thing, I'll have to say. He was literally just sitting on that right hand for 3 rounds. If he would have mixed in a check left hook, if he would have stayed on the jab, if he would have ripped to the body, even set up some low kicks, I feel as though he could have got Pulyaev out of there. But Pulyaev, the technical striker that he is, he was able to set all of his attacks up the way that he wanted. He just had to avoid the power, and he was able to do it for the most part. Outlanded Ateba Gautier, landed some really good body kicks, even mixed in some head kicks in there. But Gautier, that power definitely on full display. I wouldn't give him a 30-27. I thought it was 29-28, pretty clear across the board. But I did have him winning ultimately. Those two knockdowns definitely were, looming large, and Puya was definitely almost out of there. Mr. I touch you and you can survive, not Mr. I touch you and you die anymore. But Gautier ended up calling out Marvin Vettori. I don't think they're going to do that fight. What is more reasonable for a type of Gautier at this point? I think a Robert Brychek fight. I think they definitely need to slow walk the dog. This was his most competent matchup to date. And I did mention in the matchup, Puyev, I figured he was going to struggle with the pressure, but he was still a very slick striker, long, rangy guy. I thought he was going to give Ateba some difficulty, and he gave him a lot more than I expected. But yeah, there's some question marks around Ateba Gautier. Definitely needs to work on that lead hand. Needs to, you have some more versatile attacks with it. Like I said, the check hook was there all night. If he would have just set it up, probably could have got Puyaev out of there. Attacked the legs, no body work. Yeah, there's some holes in Gautier's and there's some holes in Gautier, and if he steps it up, if they step up the competition a little bit higher, I don't know, man. I'm not saying he gets starched or anything like that, but he is looking like baby Ngannou, looking like Ngannou who, struggled with the more technical guys. If you go back and look at Ngannou versus Stipe Miocic 1, you see the difference in the technicality. And I think, Ateba is still very young, very raw. So it's not a bad comparison. I think it's actually the perfect comparison. So I'm still on the Ateba Gautier hype train. I do think he can still put a lot of these 185ers out. Hopefully, next time he gets the weight cut dialed in if he doesn't move up. But I think Gautier should be pretty straight moving forward. Next fight, Umar Nurmagomedov taking on Deiveson Figueiredo, 30-27 across the board. That's exactly how I had it. Umar ran away with this fight, man. Deiveson came in heavy as well. Missed weight for this fight. Thought he would probably have like a physicality advantage, but Umar looked like a featherweight compared to a flyweight in this matchup. I don't know why he looked so large, but he made Figgy. Granted, Figgy was a former flyweight champion, but he was always big for the division. He made Figgy look really, really small. Didn't really utilize the wrestling like I thought he would. He got one or two takedowns. He got one takedown in the second round. Had some control time, landed a couple pity pat shots. And then in the third round, that's where he did majority of his work. I think he had about 2 minutes of control time there. But for the first round, he was, striking, flowing really good. Figgy was very patient, didn't really throw much, didn't have a lot of activity. You could see it here, 58 total strikes. He looked like an old man. Umar ran away with it. It wasn't an impressive victory. It was a 30-27, but it really wasn't that impressive. Like, it wasn't like, oh, Umar needs to fight for the title next. So, I mean, what do you do with Umar next? I think, like, if they're not going to book, the Merab rematch, the Merab Piotr Yan rematch, then maybe they do Umar Merab. Maybe they do, I don't know. It's a sticky situation for Umar Nurmagomedov because he is one of those guys who deserve, I'm not going to say deserve, but he is one of those guys who can be in the title picture. I definitely want to see how he matches up with Piotr Yan, but he's not giving us anything to say, give Umar a title shot. You know what I'm saying? Sean did a little better than Umar tonight, definitely made the most of his opportunity against Song Yadong. But again, I think we're going to get the Merab rematch. Neither one of these guys blew, the doors off the place and stamped a title shot. But I will say, Umar, I don't think they're gonna do Umar versus Sean because Sean is he's a star. Don't get me wrong, he's not a superstar, he's a star in the UFC, but I don't think they're gonna try and stifle him after he just gets back in the W column here. So maybe it's a Umar versus, I don't know. He said he was gonna, sit out for Ramadan, come back, and he's willing to fight whoever. So I don't know what you do with Umar, man. I'm trying to think of the bantamweight division right now. Maybe they. What do you do? What do you do with Umar? It's really, really, really sticky. I'm not sure, man. I really don't know what you do with Umar. Maybe they do. Let's see if I could. I really couldn't think of a matchup for him next. Maybe they do. Umar. They're not gonna do the Corey rematch. They're not gonna do Peyton Talbot. Maybe, I don't know. I guess just Song Yadong. That's really, I really can't think of it. Yeah, I don't know what you do with him, man. I really don't know. He's gonna need one more for a title shot. I don't think he earned it with this fight. Yeah, sticky situation for him, man. Sticky situation. Let's move on to the main card. And before we get to the fight, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. But I also want to mention Paramount Plus. You know, they put on a full display before we got to the main card. And I want to say, it definitely made me happy as a UFC fan to see the time and appreciation that they took to make the most of this debut and, you know, put every champion that's ever been a champion on display for everybody who's just now tuning into the sport. Every big moment in the UFC, you know, the Forrest Griffin fight, the Ultimate Fighter fight back in the day, Adesanya becoming a champion, and Leon Edwards head kick, Matt Hughes, Matt Serra, GSP, John Jones, the Conor McGregor era, Amanda Nunes, Ronda Rousey. It definitely made your gears turn in your head if you've been watching the sport for as long as I have, or as however long that you guys have. But I've been watching the sport for a while. You know, the Chuck Liddells, the Rashad Evans. I've been watching this sport for a while. Lyoto Machida, Shogun Rua. I remember those guys, and seeing them on display, it definitely gave me another appreciation for just how far this sport has come, and seeing that it's on this magnitude now. And I'm definitely proud to be a fan of UFC, and not only the UFC, but the sport in general and MMA. So big shout out for Paramount Plus for doing that and taking the time. I don't know if they're going to do it for every card. It was definitely probably just for the debut, but definitely wanted to give them their appreciation for that. Now, with that being said, let's move on to the main card opener. Arnold Allen taking on John Silva. It was a solid scrap, back and forth for the first 2 rounds. John was able to pull it away in the 3rd round. Landed a little bit more impactful shots throughout the entire night. Wasn't able to get neither one of these guys really wanted to wrestle. They were primarily striking. Again, I will say I respect Arnold Allen a little bit more, hanging in there with John Silva. I never really was a fan of him. I didn't think he was that elite caliber. I feel as though he's like, 2 steps below. But this matchup, or this fight, the way that it played out, definitely gave me a new found respect for him. I do think he is on par, slightly on par with John Silva. We do have to take into the fact that it is a John Silva who's coming off a knockout loss, so maybe, he toned down the aggression a little bit. Didn't go ballistic like he did against Diego Lopez, but there was also a lot of emotion into that fight. So didn't really look like he took this one personal. Both of these guys was just having fun, striking, trying to knock each other out, and it was just a back and forth type of scrap. Wasn't super entertaining. Don't want to sell it like it was, but it was a decent scrap. Definitely thought we would get a finish out of this one. I thought John Silva would be able to either knock him out or submit him. I thought the Arnold Allen would try to apply more takedowns into this matchup, but he didn't. John Silva was the one initiating majority of the body lock situations, and they were both able to scramble out. A lot of head kicks for each other, a lot of straight shots down the middle. But it was a solid fight overall. John Silva pulls it away. I figured 29-28 was definitely the right scorecard. I want to say he lost the first round, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, it wasn't a fight where it's like, okay, get John Silva, back in the title picture. I think a reasonable and a fun fight and a dangerous fight for John Silva, especially after seeing how the Arnold Allen fight played out. I think a fight with Yair Rodriguez is definitely what the UFC should do next. I think that's a tricky matchup for John because Yair's fast, he's tricky, he's deceiving with his with his striking as well. I don't know if John just finishes him, you know what I'm saying? I think Yair could give John Silva some trouble. And I definitely would be willing to watch that one. I think pretty much everybody would too. I think that's a solid matchup. So I really like that for John Silva. For Arnold Allen, do you do Steve Garcia? I think you do. I mean, Arnold Allen, he's proven that he's not going to give you a boring fight, right? So Steve Garcia, Arnold Allen, I think that's the matchup. I definitely think that's the matchup. I like that a lot. Yeah. Arnold Allen, Steve Garcia. Let's book it next. I think that's what I want to see. Definitely could be like a fight night main event too. If not, could be on a pay-per-view card. Steve Garcia is definitely a guy to watch out for. So good win for John Silva. Solid performance for Arnold Allen. Showed up. Didn't get, ragdolled around or anything like that. Newfound respect for Arnold Allen. Solid fight. Next fight, we had the ladies, Natalia Silva taking on Rose Namajunas. A lot of people are going to say robbery. I disagree. I figured the first round, it was very close, but I edged it to Natalia Silva. I felt she was more active. She landed a few more shots. The oblique kicks were there for her. The spinning body kicks to the body were there for her. She was able to get that jab going. Rose had a couple of moments of success in the first round too, but I edged it to Natalia Silva. I would have expected a split decision, so I figured one judge would probably give it to Rose, but unanimous decision. I still had Natalia Silva winning at the end of the day. Round 2, clear round for Rose Namajunas. Got some control with the takedown. Was getting. She was in her flow state in that second round. I will say she was able to land some shots on Natalia Silva, some clean shots too. The thing that I mentioned in the most confident pick section with Natalia Silva was when she would pull out. Her chin was there to be pieced up, and Rose Namajunas was able to find the chin a couple of times, but she doesn't have the power to finish a Natalia Silva, so didn't really capitalize on that mistake that Natalia was making. And third round, Natalia Silva came out, showed why she was the number 2 ranked flyweight in this division, and put a pace on Rose Namajunas, had her backing up, was more active, landed more shots, was cleaner, was more aggressive, and she solidified that she deserved to win this fight. So I don't have an issue with the way that the fight played out. Honestly, I figured Natalia Silva was the rightful winner, and she was at the end of the day. Now, I will say the betting line definitely didn't make sense. I thought the fight would be a lot closer. Rose showed that she was pretty bouncy, similar to Natalia Silva. Like I said, she had success with her striking as well. So I will say, after the first round, I'm not gonna say it was like a pick 'em, but I would have liked to see. Well, I'm pretty sure the live line did reflect it, but after looking at that first round, it felt more like a minus 130, plus 120 type of, or plus 150 type of matchup. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it was a solid, back and forth fight. I edged it to Natalia Silva 29-28 rounds 1 and 3. If you had Rose Namajunas, hey, I'm not upset with you, but I felt it was all the rightful winner won. So good win for Natalia Silva here. Next fight, the featured fight of the night, Waldo Cortes-ACOSTA sends Derek Lewis into hopefully retirement. I forgot to mention Natalia Silva should be fighting for the title next. We also have to account that, she did take this fight on short notice. She stepped in for Alexa Grasso, who she just whooped. So Natalia Silva should get the title next. Waldo Cortes-ACOSTA, hopefully Derek Lewis goes into retirement. He treated Derek Lewis like the old man that he is. And I don't mean that in any disrespectful way. I did mention Derek Lewis as an underdog because we know what he's capable of doing. We know he has that power. We know he can one-shot anybody in the heavyweight division. But Waldo's footwork, his elusiveness was just too much for Derek Lewis. Yes, he doesn't move like Cyril Gane, like Derek also mentioned, but Waldo's a really slick boxer, and if all you're gonna do is throw power shots against him, he's gonna pick you apart. Leg kicks were there all day for Waldo. Body attack was there. He was throwing jabs to the body, teeps to the body. Set up a couple of, I believe he tried a high kick. I know Derek Lewis was definitely trying for flying knees and scissor kicks and things of that order, but that's not Derek Lewis's game. You know what I'm saying? He's not a Rodrigo Nascimento just going to sit there and take it. Waldo's too elusive. He was able to see everything that Derek Lewis was trying to set up. 8 for 43. Didn't really connect with anything clean on Waldo. The way that he's able to, just be outside of range of the shot and come back with his own counter paid its dividends. Catches Derek Lewis with a straight jab, sits him down. I think he slipped, but he also got punched, so I don't know how it worked out. Fetal position, ground and pound, gets him out of there. Derek Lewis has a really bad tendency of, I'm going to have to say, he does quit a lot. And I feel as though he quit on himself in this fight too. Didn't even bother to try to get back to his feet. Don't get me wrong, he was getting blasted. But you can't just turtle up and, fall on your belly and expect the ref to not stop the fight. So good win for Waldo Cortez-ACOSTA, man. This dude is rolling right now. This is 4 fights in a row that he's got to finish. I think you have to reward Waldo Cortez-ACOSTA. Now, how do you do that? Do you pivot from Cyril and Tom? No. But I have a very strong feeling that Tom Aspinall is going to be out for at least another 4 to 6 months. Do we really want to wait till the end of the year for a Tom Aspinall, Cyril Gane heavyweight title shot or title fight? No. So I think what you have to do is you have to bring in an interim title. And I think Waldo versus Cyril or Waldo versus Volkov, who definitely has, a case for an interim title shot. I think that's the matchups that you have to look at. Waldo has definitely built his resume, come back from that loss against Pavlovich and shown why he wants to be a champion. And for him to be putting these guys out left and right, you got to reward him for that. If Derek Lewis would have won here, especially by finish, he would have got a title shot. So I think Waldo Cortez in an interim battle, especially if Tom Aspinall is not going to be back till September, that's exactly where I'm thinking. He probably won't start training till then, especially with his eye issue. I think he's really selling it. It is what it is. Let me know in the comments if you guys think Tom Aspinall is really hurt. I don't. Whatever, though. But if he's not going to be back till after the summer, I think you got to bring in an interim title. So I think Waldo Cortez has definitely earned his shot, and I think he should be in consideration for a title shot, an interim title shot. So I love me some Salsa Boy. I think a Volkov or a Cyril interim title is definitely the way to go. Let's move on to the co-main event of the evening. We had Sugar Show Sean O'Malley back in action against Song Yadong. Solid performance from Song. Man. Closes distance really well. Was able to get 2 or 3 takedowns in the matchup. He was throwing big shots, but Sean O'Malley just too slick. Was able to evade, get out of range, stay on that jab, stick the 2 down the middle. The teeps were working for him all night. The oblique kicks were there. He set up the leg kicks really, really well. And I told you Song Yadong was going to struggle with the range management. If you're struggling with range against Henry Cejudo, how do you think you're going to fare against a guy who's even longer than you and Henry Cejudo combined? You know what I'm saying? So Sean looked really good, man. I thought he would go to that step-in knee a lot earlier, utilized it at the end of the 3rd round, busted Song Yadong up throughout the fight. He was on that stick, man. He was sticking and moving, and I was thoroughly impressed with how he came back. Now, I'm not saying Sean O'Malley looked like, a world beater or anything like that, but he definitely looked like the Sean O'Malley that we know from, the Chito Vera fight. I wouldn't say the Aljo fight because he got the finish there, but, he definitely looked like Sean in that Chito Vera fight where he was just able to stick and move, stay on his bicycle, stay mobile, and just pick his opponent apart. And Song Yadong, he doesn't really lose any stock from this fight. Sean O'Malley's a former champion. He showed why he is. And for him to get back in the W column after taking 2 back-to-back losses definitely proves that, he's amongst the elites. Now, does he have the power to finish, a Umar, a Yan, a Marab? Clearly, we see that he can't finish Marab. I don't think he can finish with Umar, but don't get me wrong, Umar does get clipped every now and then. So maybe they do that fight. Maybe they see, a weakness in Umar. I don't think they are, though. They're going to keep the Nurmagomedovs away from Sean O'Malley. I can promise you that. Did O'Malley earn a title shot? I don't think so. And Merab's completely healthy. He's a machine. He definitely wants the rematch. So I do think they're going to rebook Jan versus Merab. So in the meantime, we saw his next opponent, what should be his next opponent, sitting ringside. Corey, the Sandman Sandhagen. I think you have to book that fight now. That could be a banger of a matchup. Could be a fight night matchup. It could even be on a numbered event. Could be a co-main or a main event. I think Sean O'Malley versus Corey Sandhagen has to happen. There's no more baby in Sean O'Malley. You know what I'm saying? He's already lost the title. It's not like you're throwing him to a wolf, but Corey Sandhagen is a hell of a fighter. I think that's a matchup that we need to see. We've been asking to see it for the past 2-3 years. You got to do it, man. I know they want to put him in a title shot, but I don't think he completely earned it with this performance here. Like, it was a solid win. Like, on a scale of 1 to 10, I give it about a 7.5 or 8. But again, him or Umar didn't really blow anybody away for a title shot. So I think a Corey Sandhagen fight definitely makes a lot of sense. It's something that I would book. I think it's something that Dana White needs to consider booking as well. So good win for Sean O'Malley. Solid performance all the way around. And I think the Sandhagen fight makes the most sense. Song Yadong, like I said earlier, I think it's going to be the Umar fight. Song Yadong's still pretty solid. Dude is 28, and he's, been in the UFC for forever. So he'll be all right, man. Maybe he ends up fighting, the Bautista Vinicius Oliveira winner or loser, maybe. There's a lot of fights for Song Yadong, There's a lot of matchups that we haven't seen for him yet. And he's still got a pretty fun, style. Just struggles with rangy guys, I believe. And, we'll see what he ends up getting next time. But good win for Sean O'Malley. Let's move on to the main event of the evening. If you guys haven't already, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And drop a plus in the comments for the Paramount Plus debut. Because this main event wiped whatever mixed feelings you had about the entire card. Justin Gaethje walking away from Paddy Pimblett taking the title. This was absolute cinema, bro. Man. Back and forth throughout the entire fight. Paddy gets dropped in the first round, gets back to his feet, starts putting the pressure on Justin. Justin, second round, comes out swinging, gets clipped by Paddy. It was just it was a barn burner the entire 5 rounds that it lasted, bro. I definitely thought Paddy was going to go out cold the way that chin was so high in the air. Justin throws like a damn Mack truck. We know what he's capable of doing. He hit Paddy clean too many times. I don't know how Paddy was able to survive those shots. And every time that he got hit harder and harder, he would just, pump himself up, keep walking forward. He took the center of the octagon in that third round, was on the pressure, almost got Justin out of there a few times. This was an absolute banger of a fight. I stood up. I want to give them another round of applause because that fight was insane. Justin Gaethje becomes the first ever 2-time interim title holder, and he's going to fight Ilia Topuria next. Listen here. Listen. I love Justin Gaethje, right? I am a fan. I respect everything that he does. He's going to get knocked out. And it's going to be worse than what Max did. And I will say, if Paddy Pimblett was fighting Ilia Topuria tonight, he would have gotten knocked out. Paddy did not wrestle at all. He tried in that 5th round. Couldn't get Justin taken down. I don't think you're going to get Ilia taken down, especially with a much smaller base. Ilia's boxing combinations, I'm telling you now, the way that Justin Gaethje was dipping to that one, I believe it was the right side every single time. Paddy was able to, set him up with those step-in knees and the uppercut, but the uppercut was so lazy. Yo, if Ilia were to fight either one of these guys, they're going to sleep. They are going to sleep within 6 minutes, within 4 minutes. I know it takes, Ilia likes to slow walk the dog sometimes, but I don't think either one of these guys are gonna last 5 minutes with Ilya Topuria. I think he starches both of them. But let me not get carried away talking about Ilya. I know I have to because this is an interim title, and you know Ilya holds the championship. But much respect to Justin Gaethje, much respect to Paddy Pimblett, showing that Scousers actually don't get knocked out. We got dropped a couple of times. He even said it on the mic. You know, he got hit in the solar plexus in that first round, and he was definitely feeling it. But the way that this guy was able to just get back to his feet and get back on the pressure and even hurt Justin Gaethje the amount of times that he did, I definitely respect the hell out of both of these guys. I am a fan forever of Paddy Pimblett just because of this fight. And Justin Gaethje definitely shown that he is legendary. He's still here to stay, and he's still got, you know, some crack in him. This was a hell of a fight. Super impressed with both of these guys. Super impressed with, you know, the debut for Paramount Plus. This is how you close out a card, man. I love this fight. This is definitely going to be one of the best fights of all time. Not even, you know, title fights, main events, anything. Just one of the best fights of all time. And Justin Gaethje and Paddy Pimblett, their fight will be forever written in stone. I promise you that. Hell of a fight. Now for Paddy Pimblett, I know a lot of people are saying set up the Arman fight, but I don't think they want to reward Arman, especially with how messy this guy has been. You know, there's just a lot of things that Arman Tsarukyan does outside of the cage, in the cage, that you just can't reward the guy for. So I don't see them going with Paddy Pimblett. Maybe it'll happen, you know, later down the line, but I don't think it's going to be next. I think what's more reasonable is Paddy fighting the winner of Hooker versus BSD, which happens, you know, next week. I'll have the full card predictions for you guys on Monday night, but I think that's a likely matchup for Paddy Pimblett. He's going to need some time to recover because this dude got busted up, but I do expect to finish in that matchup too. So maybe the timelines definitely link up, and I think Paddy versus the winner or loser of that matchup is definitely going to be on the horizon. For Justin, we know he's fighting Ilya, likely going to be, you know, in July on that White House card. And just be prepared to see Justin put the gloves down, and, you know, he may be face first on the canvas. That's what I'm expecting. I think that's what a lot of you guys are expecting too. And I didn't see anything, you know, any development from Justin Gaethje in this matchup. Saw a lot of opportunities for Ilya Topuria to crack him. I saw him get cracked numerous amounts of times in this matchup, and still, man, there's a lot to be corrected with Justin Gaethje, but the dude hits fucking hard. So respect to both of these guys again. Definitely loved this main event. You know, as much scrambling as they did, you know, with Amanda Nunes and Kayla Harrison getting pulled off of the card because of the injury. A lot of fights, you know, getting clipped because of the weigh-ins. And I also want to apologize to you guys for not getting the weigh-in recap out to you guys. I actually was traveling, like I said, on the, you know, Wednesday. Was traveling for a friend's fight. I made the fight, went back home to my mother's house to record, and I forgot the damn power cord here at my house. So I thoroughly apologize to you guys all. Won't happen again. I promise you that. I am locked in for this 2026 run that we're about to go on. I know we didn't hit on a lock of the week, but we're going to get some things going. I got a lot of new things in the plans, in the works for you guys as well. I'm thinking about streaming, you know, fight cards. As soon as I get settled, I'm about to make a big move in my life. So I'm definitely going to have a lot more time with this on my hands for you guys. So make sure you guys stay connected, stay tuned in. You know, I'm always here to chirp back with you guys. If you got comments, if you want to hit me up in the DMs, you know, if you follow me on other social medias, stay tuned with me, man. I got a lot planned for you all. So again, thoroughly impressed with UFC 324. This was a very, very good fight. I know we didn't hit on the lock, but the picks were pretty solid all night. Hit a couple of bets. We'll get to it shortly. So let's go over the picks for the entire card. Starting the night off, we went 1-0 with Ty Miller, 2-0 with HOKIT, 2-1 with Charles Johnson getting laid out, 2-2 with Nikita Krylov laying out BUKAUSKAS, 3-2 with Ateba, 4-2 with Umar, 5-2 with Gene, 6-2 with Natalia, 7-2 with Waldo, 8-2 with Sean O'Malley, and 8-3 with Justin Gaethje, making history. Hell of a fight, hell of a night. The picks were decent. Man, what a night. Let's get to the bets. Makai's money making plays. As you can see, it was a rough night. You know, we hit on 2 plays. The Waldo, Gene, Josh HOKIT. That's his name, right? Josh HOKIT. It's 2:00, guys. I'm sorry, I'm tired. You go make sure his name is actually Josh HOKIT. Yeah, Josh HOKIT. The Pack a Punch parlay plus 147, and then we also hit on the HOKIT Waldo TKO play. Heavy hitters plus 550. Lock of the week does not come through for us. So rough start to 2026. The picks were solid. The bets were not. Sometimes you got to take the cookie the way that it crumbles. But again, thoroughly impressed with the way that UFC 324 Paramount Plus worked out. Loved the main event. The co-main event was pretty solid. There was a lot of good finishes throughout this fight card. I'll say out of 10, not even just rating the fight card. I also want to mention, you know, on the weigh-in show, I was going to recap the UFC's coverage of the weigh-in show. There's a lot of commentary throughout the fighters weighing in. So you know, the UFC has their own weigh-in show, but when they were streaming the weigh-ins, they were also speaking over it. They had Michael Bisping in the background. Didn't really like that. So I think they need to get that up out of here. There was audio issues in the first, I believe it was the prelim, you know, the prelim coverage. They had like the music in the arena playing while they were trying to speak about the fight card. It was a lot of weird things going on. They had the wrong introductions for Ty Miller and Adam Fugit. So there's some kinks that need to be worked out. I think Paramount Plus, you know, they'll do a after action review of this fight card, and hopefully, you know, the next one next week definitely is a lot better. But overall, I definitely say the main event saved this fight card. Not necessarily saved it because it wasn't bad, but I'll say out of 10, I'll give it about an 8. The main event definitely lived up to the hype, and there's a lot of good finishes. So I'll give it an 8 out of 10. I loved the main event. I love some of these fights. Love some of the finishes too. And yeah, UFC 324, man, it's in the books, and it was definitely a solid one. I hope you guys enjoyed the recap. I hope you guys enjoyed the fights. I hope you guys liked, comment, and subscribe to the channel, because we will be back next week for UFC 325. So if you don't already subscribe, make sure you do. Tell a friend. Follow me on all social medias, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace out.